just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate I've got Bryan Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. He's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And Mitch, I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad.
You are now listening to Open Season. Your host, Billy Allen.
Welcome to the Open Season program. I'm your host, Billy Allen. Sitting next to Justin Elaine up in the studio. Bryan Murphy produces the show, and tonight we've got a whole lot to talk about. Tim Tebow is back. Tebow Time Part 2. How do you feel about it? Westbrook set another milestone last night. 182 triple-doubles for him. The Celtics, looks like with Brown out, seems like things are going to be tough for them in the playoffs, so we'll be looking towards that. The Bruins are charging towards the playoffs, and Taylor Hall is really helping things out, so we'll talk a little bit about him. As the Red Sox are still, after Mother's Day, folks, still in first place. Nobody thought they were going to be in first place at this point. At least I didn't. But, first we've got to start things out with the Celtics. And with Jaylen Brown getting his injury, he's going to be he tore a ligament in his wrist over the weekend. Going to be missing the rest of the season. Brown, who was averaging a career-high 24.7, shooting 48% from the field. 24 years young, but a lot of people are not so sure on this mix with the Celtics, and particularly whether or not the two young guys, Tatum and Jaylen, can ultimately lead this team to a championship. And one person that was thinking about that is Max Kellerman. We've got a little bit of sound from him.
It's not just that you need two superstars. If it's only going to be two, it needs to be Shaq and Kobe in their primes. Because let me tell you something, Shaq and Penny in their primes is not enough. When you look at, you were talking about super teams earlier, Wendy, and you were saying, hey, well, LeBron had to respond to Boston. Boston wouldn't have done that with any two of those three guys. If it's going to be only Garnett or Pierce or Ray Allen, all first ballot Hall of Famers, you need three of those dudes, three of them. Because none of those dudes are Shaq or Kobe. LeBron and Wade, Chris Bosh was great, but LeBron and Wade were in a separate category. And insofar as what we mean when we say, can these two be the Jordan and Pippen, right? Can they be two that can bring you there? No. Tatum and Brown are great. They can be on a championship team, but you need at least two other guys right on that level with Jaylen Brown if you think you're going to win a championship.
Well, Max, you're wrong about that. The Boston Celtics with Tatum and Brown.
Getting a little extra of that clip, but yeah, you get the point. Max Kellerman, talking about the mix there that the Celtics have, Justin, and with Tatum and Brown, the Celtics they can't possibly go into the season with the same look again. Do they have to blow things up and get rid of Jaylen?
I think this injury was a blessing in disguise. This team has been probably the most unenjoyable team to watch in Boston this year. Obviously, when Tatum got COVID, things went downhill pretty quickly. I'm a big Jaylen fan. I want Jaylen to stay. I think this roster needs an overhaul. And it might not be Jaylen. Unfortunately, Kemba's here for another year. This whole season is really on Danny. The draft in the past couple of years, his free agents he brought in, Tristan Thompson, Jeff Teague, both failed. Fournier was a good trade, but getting basketball advice from Max Kellerman is something else. The guy absolutely knows nothing. He knows boxing, and that's about it. But he is right. Unfortunately, comparing everything to Kobe and Shaq, two of the top 10 players of all time, isn't really, fair. They need a third superstar. Kemba hasn't been that person. And let's face it, Brown was playing better than Tatum for half the season, so it's not on Jaylen. It's, I put a lot of it on Danny and some of it on Brad.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in terms of it not being on Jalen. I think he's playing at a level that is way higher than I ever thought he'd be able to reach, quite frankly. He does a lot of things. Every year he's been getting better. And I guess I don't really think it's his fault, but I just wonder realistically what the Celtics team can actually do to mix things up. You said they need an overhaul. What do you picture them doing in terms of the overhaul? If you could change this team for next season, where would you start?
Unfortunately, you can't trade Kemba because of his contract and because of how old he is in the injury history. So that's $30 million right there. The one trade chip we do have is Marcus Smart. How much can you get with that? I don't know. And then the rest of it's just a bunch of the crap that we traded for KG years ago. It's a bunch of potential young, promising players. I don't know. Danny needs to make a move. And I know we have some of the trade exception next year. Maybe you include Smart in that trade with the trade exception to get something else here. They just need a veteran to come in, a guy that's going to lead them on and off the court. We can't have Tatum and Brown being the two leaders who are both trying to make their way in the league as superstars. And it doesn't work that way. I mean, it took LeBron how many years to get to where he is, and he needed additional help. So Danny needs to make some trades. I would just like to see some bench scorers that are veterans. I'm sick of seeing the Langfords, the Neesmiths. Every team has 3 or 4 guys that can hit 1 or 2 clutch shots. We don't have that, and that hurts us big time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no question. I really do like these two young guys, and I think it does take a lot of time. I think if you were looking at these two, they're both 27, 28, you'd be like, that's pretty much the only thing that's separating these guys from a championship, really, is being able to have that maturity that comes with it. And I almost think the Celtics, I'm not saying they need to get this type, but I feel like they need to get this type of guy in like a Jimmy Butler, just somebody that would help galvanize them a little bit, be on top of them. One of the big names that's out there is Bradley Beal, and I just feel like if you're getting Bradley Beal, you probably have to give out Jaylen Brown, and obviously Bradley Beal's a better player. He's probably a top 15 player, but Jaylen Brown's probably a top 25 player. I wonder how much you're actually gaining in getting a guy like Bradley Beal. Would he put the Celtics over the top, you think, or?
I would do that trade in a heartbeat, and people that say they won't do it are crazy, green teamers. Bradley Beal, obviously boys with Jason Tatum growing up. I feel like at times every season Tatum and Brown have their issues where both of them want to be the guy. Where if Beal comes in, he knows Tatum's the guy, and he's just the second one, even though he could put up 50 any night. I don't think that's the only thing that gets it done. You're going to have to throw in some draft picks and some capital, but I would do that trade in a heartbeat. And you don't need an elite point guard shooter. I would love to have like a Lonzo Ball type distributor of the ball. You don't need a guy to come in and score 20 points like a Thomas or Kemba or Kyrie. We need a guy to come in, play some good D, and pass the ball. That's all we need, because you can let Beal if he came here, Jaylen Brown, Tatum do the scoring.
Yeah. I mean, that would be nice to get a guy like Lonzo in here. I wonder, that is a good question in terms of like what'll happen to him.
I mean, also too, like Langford, is he ever going to be anything? I mean, this next year is going to be year 3. He has some promise and some talent, but Neesmith looked inconsistent. The best young player we have right now is Pritchard. I mean, he's looked great, but he can't be your 6th man. He has to be your 8th or 9th man. And it would also be nice if Tristan Thompson would stop hanging out with the Kardashians and actually play some basketball, because he is god awful, pathetic.
Yeah, he is really slow. It's almost been tough kind of watching him. I feel like he's really aged a lot this year. I still have visions of the guy that was guarding Steph Curry at the end of those finals games, and I'm like, he is a long way from that. And it seems to be a guy that just has a lot of mileage on him, even though he's only like 29, 30.
And like Robert Williams, like he has a lot of potential, and like the games he plays, you're like, wow, this is great, but he is hurt
play
all the time. And you can't have him be your starting center going into the next year. I mean, you have to have at least a good backup option, and Tristan Thompson's not that. He is in today's game, he's useless because he can't shoot. He's undersized for a center, and he just clogs up the lane.
Yeah, I mean, I almost kind of look at all this as a blessing, the Brown injury. I feel like if the Celtics were in a better position where maybe you thought they could compete for a championship or maybe they could get onto a deep run. But I think things were going to be pretty disappointing anyway. So I think it is kind of nice that, they can at least kind of look at things from afar. He can get healthy and bring things back. I think also with that injury, you're going to be able to see how good Tatum is. And, I just wonder if that would ultimately change what Danny wants to do at the end. Maybe Tatum goes off. He thinks that Brown is a little bit more expendable. Just a couple of things to think about. But
it's not even just the wrist, too. I mean, Jalen's been hurt for a long time. It's his knee. Remember, he sat out games, and then he played in the All-Star game, of course. All these guys have to play in the All-Star game. Even like Kyrie dating back a couple years ago. Kemba, the same thing. It's like, it's a freaking All-Star game. Who the hell cares? We'd rather have you healthy in the playoffs. And he's been hurt since then. He's been playing 30, still playing pretty well. But before that knee injury, Jaylen Brown was averaging, especially when Tatum was out a little bit, he was averaging close to 27, 28 a game. And his game was night and day compared to last year. I love Jaylen Brown. He's a dog. But he's probably our best trade chip. He's obviously not going to trade Tatum, so.
Yeah, so to go on that point, how good would the Celtics be right now if Kemba didn't play in the All-Star game last year and if, Jaylen Brown didn't play in the All-Star game this year? They'd probably have both those guys at full health at this point.
What's crazy, too, is Rozier is having a better year than Kemba is.
He really is. He put up 43 the other day.
Yeah, I don't want Terry Rozier. Everyone can talk about the points he scores, but if you watch an actual game, how many bricks does he throw up every single game? He's very inconsistent, but for how much you're paying him compared to Kemba, it's like night and day. He's had a fantastic year. It's just unfortunate that we got Kemba. We need a bigger point guard. I'm sick of these small guys. Give me a 6'2", 6'3" point guard.
We just keep being strapped by a max contract that's weighing us down. The last few years it was Hayward. Now it's Kemba. And it's just like if they could shed one of these and bring in one other max guy.
The good thing is that Hayward and Horford both opted out of their last year. You have to pray that Kemba has a really good year next year, which probably won't happen because he just is hurt too much, and then he opts out. But he probably won't. I think we were all surprised when Hayward and Horford both opted out. Horford, I bet, wishes he didn't.
I was shocked that Hayward opted out. I was shocked that there was a team willing to pay him. Obviously, this year it's been worth it, but
he's having a really good year. Charlotte's really fun to watch. They're an up-and-coming team. They're actually fun to watch, unlike the Boston Celtics. That it's like when they play a good team, they play well. But when they play the Chicago Bulls or the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's hero ball all the time. It doesn't work. It's James Harden's not on this team. It's not going to work.
Yeah. Well, to move on, we talked a little bit about Westbrook last week and how you had to give him some credit. Ultimately, this week, he ends up with the triple-double record. This had stood for 46 years and ends up getting 182 triple-doubles. He's actually had 5+ triple-doubles against 23 of the 30 NBA teams. Some of these stats are just staggering. But it's ultimately in a 1-point loss. And Westbrook keeps the ball. And we have a little sound on Colin Cowherd and his thoughts on just how impressed he was by Russell Westbrook setting the record for career triple-doubles.
Russell Westbrook gave you both facets of his game last night. His utter brilliance, his unmistakable athletic ability, his brilliant talent carved through years of focus and determination. You got that. And he missed a three-pointer badly when he should have driven, gotten fouled, and headed to the line. You get that. He's won 7 playoff games since he and KD got a divorce, and that's with James Harden and Paul George at 2 different stops. He is one of the most unique players ever. People say Iverson. I think he's more athletic than Iverson. I think he's stronger than Iverson. I think he's more vertical than Iverson. He may not be as fast. I'm not sure anybody's ever been as fast as Iverson. But you got a little of both yesterday. In fact, you got a lot of both. Can't really shoot. Judgment sometimes we don't love. But he now holds an NBA record, one that means a lot to him. Not much to most people. I'm not really a triple-double guy, but it means a lot to Westbrook. Poll most basketball fans, it doesn't mean a lot to them. But that, too, has always been Westbrook. He's a little different. He's contrarian. He's unique. And now, fittingly, he's a record holder.
So, yeah, obviously Westbrook getting the triple-double record, and a lot of people have had all kinds of different things to say. As he's gotten these triple-doubles, people think that he is kind of padding his stats, and he's had different things saying, if everybody else could get these stats, why don't they? How do you feel? How impressive is the triple-double record to you, Justin?
About as impressive as when Rondo was getting the triple-doubles back in his heyday. It's fun to watch. If you're a fan, you're like, wow, this is great. This is, if you're just tuning in to watch a superior athlete dominate but lose every game, he's your best customer. But I would never want Russell Westbrook on my team. He's going to make the Hall of Fame. I think of the past 10 years, he's probably definitely been a top 5 point guard. But the last two places he's went to, Houston and we went to Washington. They weren't going to make the playoffs regardless. But I think his most impressive year is the year after KD left when he was in OKC, and he was just putting up like godly numbers.
And he was taking those bums.
Yeah, exactly.
He took a team that was worse than, like those Iverson teams. I think I want to say, who are some of the people that were starting on that team?
The difference between Iverson and Westbrook is Iverson's a scorer. Westbrook is just athletic. Like if you're going to let Russell Westbrook shoot all day, 3-pointer, 2-point shot, yeah, go ahead, shoot. As long as you're not going in for a layup or a dunk, that's fine with me. It's like guarding LeBron back in the day. Let him shoot. Iverson can shoot from anywhere. He can score from anywhere. He never passed the ball either. So big difference between the two.
I will say this. I get what you're saying, but if you look at the numbers, what they both shot from three, they pretty much shot basically the same point, like the same percentage from three over their career. But I don't know how much better of a shooter AI necessarily was. Like
it's a different NBA though. Like you can't, if Jordan was in the NBA today, like he would shoot a lot more threes. I feel like Iverson, how many threes did he shoot a game? Like the NBA was a 2-point game back then. Again, who knows? If the game changed and Iverson was playing today, he probably practiced shooting threes a lot more. When Russell Westbrook shoots a three, you are guaranteeing a bank shot. Like it's gonna be a brick. It's gonna be awful. When he hits one, it's like hallelujah. It's like Giannis hitting a three. It's like go ahead, shoot all day. It's unfortunate because I've loved Russell Westbrook. I've loved watching him play for years. I love how hard he plays every game, which is so unlike every NBA player. He'll play hard in a scrimmage in practice. He plays ball to the wall, but unfortunately, it doesn't equal wins.
Yeah.
It doesn't equal championships, and that's he's going to go in the Hall of Fame and never winning a championship.
Yeah, I agree. He's not going to win a championship. He is one of my favorite players. I think he's one of the last links to a guy like Kobe Bryant, too. Like, I just don't know how many times we're going to see guys like Westbrook that are just absolutely obsessed with the game, have had to work as hard as they have to get to the level that they're at. And
you can compare to like Chris Paul. Chris Paul doesn't put up, like this year, he's not putting up MVP numbers. But the last two places he's gone, especially in OKC last year, he just knows how to win. I'd rather have a guy like that than a guy that puts up triple-doubles every game. I'm not saying Chris Paul's not having a really good season, but points-wise, he's probably, I don't know, top 40. But his impact on the floor on offense and defense is what is really helping the Suns, because without him, they're a garbage team. He's transformed that franchise this year.
Yeah, no, I think you have a good point. I think a lot of people, even though Chris Paul is older, they would probably maybe have Chris Paul just because he does lead to – there is that Chris Paul factor, too. I think Chris Paul is really unique, too, where there's not a lot of teams where you can just bounce around. He's been on some pretty poor teams that have always made the – he was on those poor the Pelicans. Before he came there, they were winning, like, games in the teens. And then him and David West were going to and then he's gone to the Clippers, who were traditionally a big loser. So – what Chris Paul is doing is very impressive.
And also too, if David Stern never blocked that trade to the Lakers, how many championships would he have with Kobe?
And how many would Kobe have?
Yeah,
Kobe
exactly.
would have like 8.
That Clippers team, it was pretty good, but I think Blake Griffin's probably one of the most overrated players in the NBA history. DeAndre Jordan's pretty overrated. JJ Redick is okay, but compared to what he could have done in the Lakers with Paul Gasol, Kobe, that team would have won easily.
Yeah.
So
that team won pretty easily with Pau Gasol, Kobe, and Lamar Odom. Imagine.
And don't forget about Artest. Don't forget about Andrew Bynum.
Bynum, he was a stud one year. The one year that he stayed healthy.
Yeah, shouldn't have gone to the gone bowling or wherever. Where did he get hurt? He got hurt bowling. He also got hurt going to the Playboy Mansion.
Doesn't surprise me. I feel like he was out of the league by like 24.
Yep.
But yeah, those Lakers team, that would have been absolutely filthy if Chris Paul went over there. But you look at the way the teams are fixed now these days. Is that even a bad thing? Like when you look at that, if Chris Paul had gone to the Lakers, I mean, that's not a more dangerous team than that's been assembled on the Nets this year or what was on the Warriors. Like, just think about it. I'm saying 10 years ago, look how strict the NBA was. Like, we're not even going to allow this. But 10 years from now, we will let a guy like Anthony Davis just completely hold out, screw over a team like New Orleans, and go to the best team in the NBA and just start winning championships.
New Orleans also got a really good trade package back. Like, he might have screwed them, but they got Brandon Ingram. They got Lonzo Ball. They got Hayes. They got a couple players, and they transformed that franchise. I agree with you. What he did was, terrible. But if it wasn't for your boy LeBron, these big threes wouldn't have ever started. Every team thinks they need a big three, and then Kevin Durant goes to the Warriors, and that was looked at as so negative. But now, what James Harden did this year, I think is worse than what Anthony Davis did. I mean, he showed up looking like the doughboy. He had like a fat man suit on, didn't want to play,
completely mailed it in.
He goes to the Nets, and it's like. That's when I stopped watching, basketball this year. It's like, all right, so this season's already over. Like the three best, like Harden and Durant are top 10 players. Irving's definitely top 20, and they have all these like good bench players. It's a joke. That's why the NBA is like being ruined. They should stop doing this.
All right, so let's just hit on the LeBron point for a second. Why did LeBron create the big three? Because he had taken those losses from the Celtics. The Celtics were the first.
There's nothing wrong with what LeBron did, but it opened up everyone's eyes to what they could potentially do. Before it was the owners and the GMs controlled, free agents, like trying to prevent this stuff from happening. And then LeBron went there, and everyone's like, "Oh, we all need a big three." And then obviously when Durant went to Golden State, that was big. But you saw like it just changed. Like Leonard and George demanded a trade going to the Clippers. Like every team's like, "I can't play with these bums. I need 2 or 3 All-Stars to compete." And that's what the NBA is now, and that's why it's not fun to watch. It's just like, okay, so this is already deemed, the Nets and probably the Lakers or whatever in the West are going to be in the finals. So we don't have to watch the first 3 rounds. We'll just watch the finals.
I mean, what do you think it's better to be in the NBA these days? Because if you join a super team, you don't really get all the credit for winning a championship. Like, people are still saying that Durant hasn't won a championship yet, or that they're hollow championships. But then you look at a guy like Dame Lillard, who's stayed his whole career with the Blazers, been loyal and all that. People give him a lot of respect, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have the rings that people are going to put him up there to be an all-time great. So do you think you'd probably... It seems like today you have to be one of those guys that's chasing championships. Like
100%.
We look at what Giannis did, and we say, "Oh, he's stupid."
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
For being loyal, he's an idiot.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't think Dame Lillard's gonna. I think like this year they're okay. They're always going to be a bottom 8, seed in Portland. If your number 2 is CJ McCollum, he should be a borderline number 3. So that and Giannis has 2 number 2 like Holiday's they're both number 3s really. What he did, it's great. Everyone's like, see, he's loyal. But then year after year after year, he's going to be disappointing. And, Westbrook did the same thing. He stayed, and look what happened to his career. It's unfortunate, but you respect those players rather than Durant just, okay, well, it was hard here last year, so I'm going to walk away from the Warriors now because it was too easy. I'm going to go to the Nets with Kyrie. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me. That's why the NBA it's so difficult to watch now. It really is. Good thing we have hockey, though.
What do you think would be a tougher team to beat? That Warriors team with Durant or this Nets team with Durant?
Warriors team.
Yeah, I agree. Probably not better players, like individually, but just as a team, their cohesiveness.
Yeah, the bench, they all had good bench play. They had good bench players. They played much better defense. I mean, the Nets don't even play defense. Klay Thompson and Curry, like probably the best backcourt of all time. And then you have, obviously Durant. Iguodala was playing really well, or he was somewhat playing well. Draymond Green was putting up triple doubles. I mean, that team was just ridiculous. Didn't even matter who played center on that team. And it was actually fun to before Durant got there, it was fun to watch. And then it just became like, this is like a video game.
Yeah, Durant basically didn't even have to play. He could get 35. It was like, oh. When you can't do anything special to guard Durant, like you can't even give him you can't double team him at all with all the All-Stars that he's playing with on the net. So it's like everything just comes so easy because you're, pretty much one of the best players in the league.
I mean,
best scorer.
He'll go down as one of the best offensive talents in the NBA history just because of, he's almost 7 feet tall. He's 6'10", 6'11". His wingspan's like 7'3". So even if you put like a power forward on him, he's still shooting over them. And then in Golden State, he started actually playing defense. And when he plays defense, he's like a top defender. So yeah, it's unfair. Two most hated players in the NBA right now are on the same team. Actually, three of the most.
I know. I can't wait till it blows up. I mean, that would be so rich if they just lost this year somehow to a team like.
It's only happening if Durant and Harden get hurt, which could happen. I honestly believe Durant the rest of his career is going to play like 40 games a year. He's always going to be hurt. It's unfortunate. And Harden's kind of transformed his career this year. I think he's had like an MVP type season, and because he's on a winning team, everyone's like, "Oh, he's an MVP candidate." But when he's on a crappy team, it's like, this team sucks. He's putting up triple doubles.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. Harden has completely changed the way that I never thought there was this effective version of Harden. To lead the league in assists, to be able to take his 3-point percentage up to 40.
Well, when there's during COVID and you can't go to the strip clubs, he's motivated. He can't go to the strip club every night or the casinos. He has to focus on basketball.
It's one thing if you or I put on a little weight, but I mean, how do you put on 30 pounds when you're doing NBA level conditioning? I mean, you got to be eating like 15,000 calories a day. It's like he's got to be force feeding himself to some degree to be putting on that much weight with NBA level workouts going on.
I mean, it's probably one of the biggest disgraces in the NBA history if you think about it. He literally put on 40 pounds, 30 pounds just to get traded, showed up saying this team's not good enough, I want out. And now you're starting to see this in the NFL now too, like with Aaron Rodgers wanting to be traded. Stafford, I guess it was kind of a mutual thing, but Russell Wilson wanting to get traded. Deshaun Watson wants to get traded. It's all started from LeBron, and now the players have more of a voice than they did in the past.
You keep going to LeBron. The Celtics created the special team first.
That was a trade. That wasn't free agency. Once he did that, players have full power of where they're going, no matter what the sport is. It never used to be in the NFL you could ever say, I want to get traded, and here's my list of teams. It's like, no, we pay you $40 million a year, you're staying here. But it could potentially happen. And the NBA is the same thing. James Harden said, I want out. I'm getting traded.
Have we necessarily seen that in the NFL, though, yet? I mean,
it hasn't worked yet. I mean, I think Russell Wilson was pretty close to going to Chicago. It just didn't work. And then Deshaun Watson was going to get out before the sexual harassment charges. I don't see Aaron Rodgers actually getting traded. At the end of the day, I don't know if a team's willing to give up what they're going to have to give him or to get him.
I actually feel the same way about Rodgers, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But I feel the same exact way. It's almost like you wonder from the Green Bay side, would you even be giving up enough value because of how old he is and everything like that? It's almost like the Tom Brady situation where not a lot of teams at the end of that, you thought a lot of teams would be into it, but at the end of the day, how many people are going to come to the table for a guy that's 37?
That's different, though, because Brady was a free agent. Teams just had to sign him. They didn't have to give up anything. To get Aaron Rodgers, you're going to have to give up probably 2 to 3 years first-round picks. You're going to have to give up a couple elite young players. Like everyone's saying, the Dolphins can do it. So the Dolphins are going to give up all their young players. They're going to give up a couple of years of first-round picks, and then they're going to be good. When he gets there, he's going to have no one to throw the ball to.
I mean, if you can get 2 first-round picks for Carson Palmer, you should get 6 for Aaron Rodgers. So
Agreed. And now, you see Devontae Adams saying, "Oh, well, I want out now too if Aaron goes." It's like, no, you guys signed a contract. You can't just say "Oh, I don't like the GM because he signed Jordan Love." All right, that's fine. Talk it out, work it out. I kind of think he's been quite a diva during all of this. Granted, when they came out, I'm like, Patriots, please trade anything to get him, because he's a phenomenal talent. But I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, another phenomenal talent that has bloomed in since his acquisition to the Bruins has been Taylor Hall. And, last night getting his 10th goal, or just the other day getting his 10th goal in a win in overtime. 10 goals since the trade. He's just been firing on all cylinders. And, with the playoffs starting Sunday, the Bruins are in a really good spot to face Char and Ovechkin when they come to town. How are you feeling about how the Bruins have been rolling lately?
I feel like once we traded for Taylor Hall, that put us in a position to win the Stanley Cup. And I knew it was going to take some time for him to get used to playing here, but it wasn't just about Taylor Hall. When you trade for Taylor Hall, that allows your second wings that were playing to move to the third line, because that's where they should be. And the third line players to move to the fourth line. That's what it should be. Their depth is better than it was in 2011 on the offensive side. You have Taylor Hall on the second line with Krejci playing the best hockey he's played probably in 5 years. Carson Smith has been playing really well. And, the only thing that's a question mark really with this team is the goaltending situation. What are we going to do with Rask and Swayman? Because Swayman's been playing unbelievable. And Rask has been prone to, in big games, kind of shit in the bed a little bit. He's a really good goalie. He's been top 5, every year. He gets hot, but then sometimes it looks like he's not really there. So it's going to be interesting what this team does, but I think getting Taylor Hall, he's going to sign here hopefully for 5 years. That opens up so many things you can do. And once Rask is off the books, it's huge. Every Stanley Cup team that wins does not win with the highest paid goalie. It wins with some goalie that just got hot, like out of nowhere. And that's how they win cups. So I'm pumped, and I think they have probably the hottest team in the NHL going into the Stanley Cup playoffs.
How good do you feel about Tuukka's ability to block out the noise and be able to perform? Obviously, he's had a tough time. Whether it's his fault or not, he's had a tougher time performing in some of the bigger spots. Hasn't always been able to be there when the team needs to count on him. How sold are you on his ability to be able to, be solid this postseason?
I think he'll be fine. It'll just be interesting to see what his leash is like with Bruce Cassidy if he goes to Swayman, if he has a bad game or two. Because there's been playoff runs where Tuukka Rask is literally carrying us. There's been series where he carried us. But it doesn't last forever, which it can't. I just feel like right now the team plays more energetic. They just play better and more cohesive as a unit when Swayman's in net. I don't know what that reasoning is, but in terms of Tuukka blocking it out, I don't think he pays much attention to anything. Like, I don't think he watch the news. He doesn't listen to the radio. He just comes in and performs. And other people might say it to him, but we'll see. It's probably his last year here. He's had a great career here, and we'll see what happens after this year. I definitely think it's the last year for him, though.
Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit before the show. I definitely think he would need a cup in order to make the Hall of Fame or something like that. Where he stands right now, how good is he as a goaltender in Bruins history?
I don't even think he's as good as Tim Thomas was. Tim Thomas won a couple of Vezinas. He won a Stanley Cup, and he did in a short amount of time. I mean, Tuukka's been very consistent. I don't think he's going in the Stanley Cup. I don't even think his jersey is going to go up in the rafters unless he wins a Stanley Cup. And we've had 2 shots at it since here, and I'm not blaming him for the losses, but in those Game 7s, he hasn't played the best. And unfortunately, they've both been at home. We've lost both those games. So it's going to be interesting. That, when we signed Tuukka Rask and Krejci years ago to these massive long-term contracts, you knew it was going to bite us in the butt because it's like you're signing him for 7-8 years for. He's the highest paid goalie in the league. You can't win when you have a goaltender making $10 million a year or whatever it is, $9-8 million. In the NHL, that's like, almost a max contract in the NBA. So, but they're playing really well. I really feel like we're going to beat Washington. We've had their number all year, and I think we have a great shot at winning a cup this year.
Yeah, I mean, we see it every year with some guys on the Bruins will get hot or not. Maybe necessarily didn't have the biggest regular season. Who do you think would be potentially like a wild card? Who's somebody that oh, we've got one actually ringing through right now. I think we'll take it. Hi, you're live on Open Season. Who do we got?
Hey, Billy, what's going on? It's Matt giving you a buzz.
Hey,
coming
Matt.
at you hot.
Appreciate the call. How you doing tonight?
Not bad. I don't mean to get you guys off of the NHL, but there's a couple things on the NFL that I wanted to kind of get your opinions on.
Perfect segue. Let's go.
All right, perfect. Well, first things first, Tebow Mania, is it back?
Well, I think Justin and I have differing opinions on this. Justin, is Tebow Mania back?
No, it's not back. It's just the media. It's just to get people to buy season tickets to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which has been probably the most irrelevant franchise in the NFL. I don't understand why people are upset. Like he just got to come back to the NFL. It's like, all right, well, whose fault is that? Is that Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars? Yes, it's not Tim Tebow's fault. It's not like he said, Urban Meyer, I'm putting a gun to your head. You have to sign me. Like, who cares? You probably won't even make the team.
Yeah, I mean,
that was going to be my next question. Do you think this is just driving fans to summer practices or something? All the southern churches and coming in buses.
I didn't even think they needed to do this. To be honest, they have Trevor Lawrence coming in. Like people are going to be watching the Jaguars because he's a franchise. He's the best quarterback prospect probably since Peyton Manning. People were going to go. I think it's more just a locker room thing. They have a really young team, and Tebow's a good, veteran locker room guy. But I don't even see him making the team. Like if I was Urban Meyer, I'd been like, yeah, you want to come on as like a coach? You want to coach,
Yeah, you want to be our team chaplain?
Yeah, exactly. Him and Trevor Lawrence can be boys going to church after every game on Sundays.
Do you think Trevor Lawrence was better than Andrew Luck coming out?
I do because of he played in. Did Andrew Luck even play in a national championship game? I don't think he did.
I don't think.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence.
Like,
how many games did he lose? 2 in 3 years. I mean, Trevor Lawrence could have came out after his first year and been the number 1 pick.
I think that Trevor Lawrence is the more like undisputed number 1. I think they were both close, but I think there are some people that were even arguing that RG3 could maybe be the number 1 pick. I feel like Lawrence, it's basically been in stone for the past 3 years, really, that he's going to be the number 1 pick. I mean, nobody was really questioning that. So I would say he's the more solid prospect. I mean, he's like a full 6'6". He's even probably a lot more mobile, too. Like, can actually win games with his legs. So aside from being able to make all the throws.
You know who was also 6'6"? Ryan Mallett.
Stud. Ryan Mallett was a stud.
I just mean, like, there were people that did grades on this.
Lynch.
Oh, another one. Paxton Lynch. How about who was the Broncos quarterback a couple years ago? Brock
Osweiler.
Yeah, I think once you get past 6'5", I mean, I think people just become too goofy.
Yeah. Another thing too, I think it's funny if this actually happened, and I heard this on the radio today. Is what if Tebow went to Urban Meyer and said, "If you don't give me a job, I'm going to write a book about the Florida Gator years when Hernandez, Pouncey." Was Percy Harvin there? Like all these,
Riley Cooper.
All these like thugs and like morons being like, I was the one holding it all together, but I could tell lots of stories about Hernandez shooting people and Pouncey beating people up at bars. And Urban Meyer's like, whatever you need, man. You can be whatever. You can be the mascot if you want.
I don't think Tim Tebow's got it. I don't think his brain works that way.
He's all about.
I bet you
Tebow's all about the JOD. That's about it.
They're going to tell Tebow he can play for free or something like that, and he will. Yeah. I don't know. The whole thing irks me a little bit, Matt, just because he was a quarterback and then, said that he wouldn't try to play any other positions, like was so apparently dedicated to being a quarterback, and then he just leaves the NFL in his prime to just go mess around in baseball for a few years. It's like, were you really that dedicated to football? How many guys can just go away from the game and get a call back? I just feel like he's really lucky that Urban Meyer fell into that situation to give him a tryout. I think it's a favor that he's doing to him. It's like, why would you want him to be a tight end? You wouldn't want someone that their entire life has worked as a tight end. You're going to take this guy that was a quarterback. He's 33 years old, and you're going to switch him over to tight end? It just doesn't seem like I don't think he's going to be really effective. I'm rooting for him, but...
So here's my argument to that. He was pretty much out of the NFL. Let's all remember, he got cut from the Jets. He didn't have a job. No one wanted him. He was trying for like a year to get a job, but no one did. So he's like, all right, I'll try baseball. Did he do well at baseball? No, but I think he did a lot better than people thought. And he's like, what am I going to do next? And, if Urban Meyer gives him a shot and he makes it, great. He's probably not because he wasn't good 5 years ago, and how he's going to be good now. But I don't understand the uproar about it. I think it's just a media thing to get tickets. Like it's not going to have no impact on the Jacksonville Jaguars this year. They're still going to be a terrible team.
I mean, I don't think he's going to make them any better. I just think it's kind of BS that he. So if he was out of the league 7 years ago or whatever, why does he get a chance to? If he wasn't good enough to be in the NFL 7 years ago, why is he getting a chance to be in the NFL now?
Well, Jacksonville, I've heard in the rumors that they're looking for a new priest in the locker room, and he signed up right away.
He's also a local kid, right? Didn't he grow up in around either St. Augustine or Jacksonville or something like that?
Or Gainesville, I think, or something. I don't know.
I mean, he's probably better than Carlos Hyde at running back at this point.
It's got to be better than Sony Michel.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting.
Probably better than Izzo as a tight end.
It's also very interesting that it's gotten so much news coverage on like ESPN and everything. Like it's kind of diverted from all the Aaron Rodgers talk. It's like, can we talk about the draft that just happened? Like, why are we talking about Tim Tebow? Like, this should be back page news, but people are in uproar. Like, how come he got a job over Colin Kaepernick? It's like, I don't know. A team wanted him. It's got nothing to do with Colin Kaepernick. He's not playing quarterback. He's playing fullback or tight end.
Well, how about you, Matt? Anything else on the NFL for you, or?
Oh, dude, I could go on for hours, brother.
So
my next question, we'll do Aaron Rodgers last because I feel like, we may be able to. That's a good way to wrap things up. Something that I think isn't getting talked enough about is. I honestly don't see anybody beating the Chiefs. I think the reason why they, didn't, bring it home was, their offensive line was depleted at the end, and now it's totally revamped. I'm pretty sure from tackle to tackle, like there's not one person from last year's squad that's going to be starting. What do you guys think? Like, what do you think the Chiefs are going to look like? Do you think there's anyone that can beat them?
I don't think anybody in the AFC can beat them. And then the Buccaneers, they've done something amazing by bringing everyone back, but it's just how motivated will they be for the second one? I think they will be very motivated, but I think Kansas City is pretty much a shoo-in to make the Super Bowl again. I don't really see anyone in the AFC knocking them off.
Yeah, I mean, the AFC has I feel like the AFC is a lot of young quarterbacks, where the NFC is a lot more veteran quarterbacks. I think the AFC is going to be really good in a couple years, but, the competition-wise, it's the Chiefs, and then there's a huge gap to the next team like Buffalo. Buffalo hasn't made that many improvements this year to be able to compete, and the Chiefs addressed their number one weakness last year with their offensive line and got a very good offensive line, folks. As long as Mahomes stays healthy, there's no one that's going to beat the Chiefs unless Cam Newton has an MVP season, Bill.
Well,
possible, I mean, based off the last game of the season, if he picks up where he went,
hey, it's his birthday today. You gonna wish him a happy birthday?
Oh yeah. Boy. I hope
we're
suffocates
on
the cake.
LinkedIn, and I got the notification.
Oh, shit. You're friends with him on LinkedIn. You guys must be pretty tight, Panora.
Does he type in that font on LinkedIn, too, that you can't read?
Oh, dude, you should see his picture. He looks so fresh, man. He's got, like, the most wild hat you've ever seen.
Hey, that type of style on LinkedIn gets you more likes.
He does lead the league in wild hats.
Yeah.
Very important stat.
We shall see. So where did you want to talk about with Aaron Rodgers?
Is he going to the Broncos?
I mean, I would love to see that, dude. I mean, I really would. I feel like the Broncos have had, this ever since Peyton Manning, it's just been this insane carousel, and honestly, I do think I think Rodgers deserves a squad like that. Like not that the Packers are anything to sneeze, turn your nose up at or anything, but I feel like friggin' John Elway. I feel like he would really put Aaron Rodgers in a position to succeed, and I think they got some really, really fresh wide receivers, and I think it'd be a solid situation for him. What do you guys think?
So to get him on Denver, you're going to have to trade two of those or one of those receivers, probably Sutton, trade that number one cornerback you just drafted 9th overall, and probably a first-round pick. So when he gets there, what is Denver? And John Elway, I don't believe is the GM anymore. I think he stepped down.
No, he's like the VP of football operations or something along those lines.
Yeah, it was shocking.
I think he can still pull rank.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks ever, and he's done. I think Peyton Manning fell into his lap, but other than that, he's had a lot of misses at quarterback over the past couple of years.
Sure.
It was shocking that they didn't draft who's the quarterback on Chicago.
Fields.
I thought he was going to go there, and they drafted the cornerback. So I was kind of telling stories saying, all right, well, they're going to go after Aaron Rodgers. I just don't see why you'd want to go against Patrick Mahomes twice a year if he had the choice. Why would you want to do that?
I don't really see the reason why he wants to leave the Packers either. I don't even think it's actually going to happen. I feel like this is going to be something where he ultimately realizes his best situation is probably there. Does he want to leave, learn a whole new offense?
Well, they would say, here's the you run the offense. The problem is he's playing in a division that's one of the worst in the NFL. Why wouldn't you just want to stay there?
I agree with that too.
Like
I don't see Aaron Rodgers actually getting traded. Like, do you see a team that's a great fit for him in terms of what you're going to have to give up, needing a quarterback? Like, you just talked about what you'd have to give up for the Broncos to get him. I would never give that up. I would not give up.
Like the Raiders, like their offensive line I know their big thing was offensive line, but their offensive line got worse this year. They don't have that. They have some good offensive weapons, but their defense is trash.
I guess I could see that. I mean, Gruden is crazy.
No,
he would trade whatever to get Rodgers.
I agree, but it's like when you get there, what's going to be there? Brady walked he was a free agent. That's why it worked. He didn't have no one had to leave, and then players followed.
Yeah, if you have to give up half your team to go somewhere, then
yeah, and free agency is already over. The draft already happened. So I just don't see the Packers doing it.
I just think it's crazy because we're talking about Aaron Rodgers in a league where it's so quarterback driven. We all talk about it all the time where the quarterback is
just got MVP.
You've got to be. But look at this. How many legitimate suitors are there going to be for Aaron Rodgers on the trade market? I mean, if you're a team like the Patriots or something, like, wouldn't you?
The Patriots would make sense.
Wouldn't you trade your entire draft class to get him? If you traded a year's worth of draft picks, you could probably get Aaron Rodgers for that, right?
Isn't that what the Dolphins did to get Ricky Williams?
Yeah, they basically gave. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they gave up that entire draft for him.
I see that. I think a lot of the teams that were in on Deshaun Watson, and because of what happened, they'd be the first suitors. Like the Dolphins, definitely. Like Tua cannot be your quarterback on that team. Like I'm not a big Tua fan.
Dude, bring in Aaron Rodgers on that team. They're a competitor right away.
But Rodgers is also 37. Deshaun Watson's 25. Like, I would trade everything for both, probably. I think Belichick would suit more with Rodgers than Miami because Belichick just, he wants to win right now. Miami's still kind of in rebuild mode.
Do you think it's possible for Aaron Rodgers to take 1 year off and then join somewhere else? Like, do you think his body would be able to handle the buzz there?
I don't see him actually doing it. I think he's at too advanced of an age to do it. I think it would make a lot more sense. Maybe if he was like 32 or something. I think he's just too long in the tooth to take a full year. I don't see him doing it. I could see him maybe threatening it. I don't think he'll actually do it. Do you think he would sit out, Justin?
He's not going to lose $30-something million to go host Jeopardy. I know some people are talking about that. The one thing is if they trade him, I think after June, the cap hit goes down by like almost $15-20 million towards their cap than if they trade him right now. So maybe they're waiting. This is on the Green Bay's too. You drafted Jordan Love last year, didn't tell him about it, and they haven't, like this year, you could have drafted the receiver in the first round. Would they draft a cornerback or another defensive player? It's just like,
They have never drafted a weapon for Aaron Rodgers.
But the thing is that the one complaint
I have about... Did you guys see Dan Orlovsky's tweet?
No.
So it pretty much it went over like the last 10 years or something like that of the Packers' first-round picks. And it was all defensive selections except for one. And that one was drafting his replacement. That was the only offensive pick they ever made in like the past 10 years. It was something bonkers like that.
So my thing with that is like people act like he doesn't have offensive talent. He has the best receiver in football. He has a very good running back. He's always had good receivers. I mean, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, like these guys were really good receivers. Patriots never drafted receivers in the first round until N'Keal Harry. Like, you don't need to draft receivers in the first round. You just don't draft a quarterback and don't tell Rodgers that you're doing that.
You couldn't see why Rodgers would be pissed. Like, all those years. I just feel like Rodgers kind of made some of those guys.
Here's the other thing,
How
too.
good is Jordy Nelson if Rodgers isn't
All
his
right, but here's the other
quarterback?
thing, too. It's not his fault, but he signed a ridiculous contract, and he can't help to pay some of these elite, talented players. That's why it worked so long here in New England. You know, this Chiefs thing can't last forever. Like Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, all these guys making big bucks. It can't last forever. It's just a shame they haven't never been able to trade for a receiver or sign one in the offseason. But the last thing Aaron Rodgers wants is a young receiver coming in. He wants veterans. He's 37.
Yeah. Well, hey, Matt, we appreciate you touching in with us tonight. Some good stuff there, but appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Thanks for taking my call, guys. Take care.
Yeah, of course. You too. So, yeah, we had some stuff on, we did the whole Tebow thing. One of the other things that's back is the Red Sox being in first place. I think if you had told me if the Red Sox were going to be in first place after Mother's Day, this deep into the season, in a league where if you make it to June in first place, you make the playoffs about 80% of the time. I just didn't think that this team was going to start out this hot, this quick. How do we feel about the Red Sox? Is this sustainable? They've kind of come back to earth over their last 20 games or so. They've been about 500, and that's going to happen over a long MLB season. But, what kind of promise do you think that the Sox team has?
So the thing with the Sox is they haven't really played anybody good. Like, they haven't played the Yankees. I don't think they've played Tampa. They've, played the Orioles 2 or 3 times already. They played the Tigers. They played the Mariners. They're playing the A's tonight, which is one of the best teams in the league. Let's see how they play against these, some of the elite teams in the league. I just think it's crazy that it's literally almost the same team as it was last year. And you just add Cora back. Is there how much cheating going on? Who knows? But I do think Cora is able to, the players are bought in with him, where they weren't last year. I mean, J.D. Martinez is having an MVP season. Last year, he was god-awful. Devers is playing well. Bogarts is having a really good year. They have a good core. It's just their pitching is – you can't have Evaldi be your ace for the whole season. He's a number 3, 4 starter. And, it's going to come back to bite him, but let's enjoy it while it lasts. And maybe if it keeps up and Seattle comes back, that's awesome. But this was supposed to be a bridge year, so – this is icing on the cake. Let's see what happens, but it's fun to have the Red Sox being good again. It's just unfortunate they're good one year, bad one year, good one year, bad one year. But it's because they were so bad last year. They do have they have the number 4 pick in the MLB draft this year, which is coming up next month, and there's a couple of Vanderbilt pitchers I would love for us to get.
Is
Rocker
Al Leiter's son?
Yeah, Al Leiter, Jack Leiter, and Kumar Rocker is the other guy from Vanderbilt. Yeah, we haven't had a good pitcher coming up through the system since Lester and Clay Buchholz. We just sign pitchers because we can't develop them. But gotta give credit to the GM. Bloom. He took a lot of crap for the Betts trade. Took a lot of crap for some of the signings he's made. But for whatever reason, we have to operate like we're the Tampa Bay Rays, and we don't have all the money in the world. Maybe don't sign Chris Sale to a 7-year contract when he needed Tommy John surgery.
I think he should take some crap for that Mookie Betts deal, though.
Verdugo's playing. He's going to be a good player. Some of the prospects they got could be good. Granted, the Red Sox should have just signed him and avoided all of this. They got to the point where it did, and it's when you're trying to trade an asset that everyone knows needs to leave, you're not going to get that much in return. Like, everyone knew they needed to trade him. You should have traded him the year before when no one really knew about it. You could have got a haul for him. But, we'll see. I mean, the Dodgers have actually been sucking lately, which is interesting. They have a ridiculous roster.
I know. They had the highest over-under to start a season ever.
I mean,
they're
they got
over 100
Trevor
wins.
Bauer's their third pitcher. Like, that team's loaded. So we'll see. Let's see them play some good teams first before we, go crazy. Because the Yankees are going to come back. The Rays are good. The Blue Jays are good. They haven't really played anyone good yet.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that got a little bit of press was the fact that just with the Red Sox came up a little bit with this was Pujols obviously getting cut by or sent for assignment by the Angels. It wouldn't bring a whole lot. I think it would maybe bring up a little buzz. I'd like to get Pujols in here, put him at first base. Play him on a part-time basis.
They have J.D. Martinez is the DH. Al Pujols doesn't play in the field anymore. He just plays DH. And some of the first basemen they have, Bobby Dahlbeck's pretty good, or he could be pretty good. Chavez. I mean, this is supposed to be a bridge year. I mean, if you want to sign him to like a short-term deal, great, but he was pretty bad at the end. And J.D. Martinez is the best hitter in baseball right now. He's our DH. Where is he going to play?
I guess I'm just one of these guys. It was sad to see Shaq at the end of his career, but, it's like at least we had him once. It might be cool for the Red Sox to just...
I mean, the Red Sox could, probably get some people into the park if they'd actually let them in. People are going to pay top price for Red Sox tickets even when they're the worst team in the league.
Yeah, that's true.
Come get your $12 beer and your $15 hot dog.
Oh, of course. Your pink hats.
Yep, and have
and all the Pablo Sandoval merchandise we never sold.
Pablo Sandoval is the best pinch hitter in baseball right now. 5 pinch hit home runs. They must feed him so many tacos and burgers before he gets up there. They gave him a
he can't play a full inning anymore. The only way he can play is if he does pinch hit.
They fixed his belt so it's more extended so he doesn't fall off him when he's hitting. Hey, that's great. I mean, good for him, but screw him. Another great signing by the Red Sox.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's crazy. I feel like Trout was hitting 430 a week ago or something like that. And now he's really come back.
The talk of baseball this year should be Ohtani. I mean, the guy is. This will never happen again where you have a pitcher that can throw 100 miles an hour, and he is second or first in the MLB in home runs.
I know, this is absolutely crazy. He's leading the league in home runs.
He's doing stuff that only Babe Ruth has done. And in an era where there isn't as much home runs, I feel like it's a lot more strikeouts, and because they're not juicing and everything, it's so impressive. And get him some more help. Get the Angels some pitching. They don't need Albert Pujols or Torrey Hunt or Justin Upton. Can you get him some pitching? That guy should be in the playoffs every year. He never makes it.
Who, Pujols?
No,
or Trout.
They never go to the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what Ohtani is doing is absolutely crazy. To be able to have that power, I think the stats that he has is he has the fastest home run off the bat and the fastest pitch thrown this year. And that's a pretty impressive collection of stats to have.
His home runs, too, they are bombs. I mean, it's so much fun to watch. He's the most fun player to watch in baseball. Him and the shortstop from the Padres, Tatis Jr.
Oh, yeah.
2 most impressive players in baseball. And Ohtani's, how old is he, 24, 25?
What about that guy for the Braves?
Oh, Acuna?
Yeah.
Acuna? Yeah, he's phenomenal,
He's
too.
so good.
Yeah, Red Sox had one. We had bets, and we traded him.
Acuna is just ridiculous.
Yep. That's what happens. These teams, you suck for 5 years, like the Braves did. It's kind of like the Astros. They were so bad for 5 years. They get these first-round picks. Now look at them.
Yeah. Acuna's already got 10 homers, 6 steals. When he was 20, he went 41 homers, 37 steals.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy could accidentally get a 40-40 season. Pretty
Absolutely.
crazy stuff.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Anything else to touch on baseball there while we're at it? Probably got about a minute left.
No,
Anything
but I
else
mean,
notable?
hey, it's good to talk baseball. Red Sox are playing well. They're in first, which is probably the biggest shock. I mean, I think if someone told me that the Celtics maybe get the 8th seed in the East this year, or the Red Sox are in first place, it probably would have been shocked that was the case.
And Erod just doesn't lose either. I mean, his stats are crazy just in terms of the wins. He gets so much run support. I feel like the guy never loses.
They have a good hitting team. They just need to get some better pitching, and they probably could do that at the trade deadline. They have some good assets they could trade. hey, it's fun to have something to root for in the summertime because the Celtics are not going very far this year.
Very true. Well, that's going to do it for us. We will catch you next week, same time, same place.
I'm just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate
I've got
Bryan Murphy to my left.